Let's get more now on our main story this evening, the Liberal Democrat leadership row that just won't go away. Today's development is the resignation of the senior peer Lord Oakeshott from the party, with a parting shot that he's praying for Clegg to be replaced. Lord Oakeshott was facing disciplinary action for commissioning polls suggesting the party would do better with someone new at the helm. Well, Seth Thévoz is a Lib Dem member and activist. He's in our Westminster studio. Well, we know what Lord Oakeshott's praying for. What are you praying for, Seth?
I don't think anyone's quite clear-cut enough to know what they're praying for. What we know is the situation as it stands is pretty awful and frankly unsustainable. Nick is in a difficult position where his position in the long run... Sorry, I'm afraid you've gone out.
Yeah, no, we can still hear you. Go ahead.
Nick's position is frankly unsustainable in the long run. Last night we had a poll of Lib Dem members and found that 40% of our own party wants him to go. And this is after we've had a catastrophic 40% drop in membership. We've already seen several constituency parties like Cambridge, like Liverpool, triggering these special general meetings. And what I fear is that although that's one way of unseating the leader, it's a very long, slow, drawn-out process. I mean, they need to call a meeting to then give out a 2 weeks notice of a further meeting. And these things are going to take months to drag on and on to hit the 75 targets. There's going to be a running tally that's going to be in the media, which will ratchet slowly up. We won't be able to talk about anything else. The only questions people are going to ask Clegg are, when are you resigning, and are you going to keep your seat? And it's going to be a tremendous distraction from actually the very real and rather worthwhile things I'd like to say that we're standing for. I don't see how we can go on like this and have him limp on maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe just short of the general election. But at the moment, we are actually a year away from the general. If we have a leadership election now, under the party rules, it takes exactly 2 months. We can have a new leader by July in place with a good 10-month run-up to the next election. Someone who might be able to revitalise it. And I'm not pushing any particular candidate. I just think we deserve a choice and we deserve to have a voice on this. And the danger of Nick holding out is that he's holding off the inevitable and dragging down the party with him.
Well, I was just going to come to that. So your assessment seems to boil down to Clegg should do, in your view, the decent thing and resign for the sake of the party. Is that how you see it?
Yes.
Do you think he'll do that?
I'd like to think that he'd be willing to put the party first. And I'd like to think that members will respect him far more if he looks at this coolly and critically. You'll notice that, interestingly enough, there's not a great call amongst Lib Dem members for him to resign as Deputy Prime Minister. There's not a great call amongst members for the coalition to break up. There is a call to have a new leader and to have a leadership election. And I think that if he were to look at the situation now, hold off things before they become more unpleasant in the long run, I think we can save on a needlessly painful process which could take, well, what, 3 months at least to trigger a contest, and then the contest taking another 2 months after that, 5 months whilst we're led by a lame duck. I mean, it's really not a tenable situation to be in.
Right, but I mean, the alternative argument goes broadly as follows. If you think there have been big achievements in the coalition, he as Deputy Prime Minister must be responsible for them. It was obvious that, for months that the Liberal Democrats were going to have a difficult time at the European elections. The whole EU question is very emotive. A lot of people didn't even bother to vote, who might have voted for you, who knows. And changing horses now, when you may actually have an even worse drubbing at the general election, would probably be a waste of time.
I think it's fairly clear the way we're headed right now. We're going for a pretty bad drubbing. So I don't know about you, but as a Liberal Democrat, I would rather take my chances. In terms of the point about fairness, I mean, yes, there are many achievements actually in the coalition which can be pointed to. But the question is Nick Clegg now, in 2014, really the right person to lead us on into the next general election, given the situation and given the devastating verdict? I mean, we just lost 91% of our MEPs in one night. We've had the 4th year running where our council base has now been reduced to almost half of what it was 4 years ago. It's at a level it hasn't been in over 30 years. It's beyond awful.
Seth Thévoz, thanks very much for joining us.